the spirit of maybe the time, our heritage. Okay. This allows us to view and revere the heritage they bequeath us as the inheritance of our fathers, and to call the universal God the Father of all men, etc., etc. So now they're moving on to other aspects of this. This is written by the Committee of Editors in this introduction to the Berlin Parable. Hence our prayers quote whole passages from the Bible in which our ancestors' faith in immediate, apparently supernatural revelations expressed vividly and with great force. Okay, so we're going to quote some passage from the Bible where this revelation is supposed to have taken place. They're not saying they actually believe it was a revelation. They're just saying that it's so powerful and of such solemn importance that they're going to quote it. But they call it poetry. However, such poetry must not sully the purity and clarity of our religious consciousness. It's poetry anyway. Whether it's real is something else. Old and new prayers. What we have said applies to the old prayer as well as those which we have reshaped. They're going to make new prayers based on old examples, resembling old examples. Everywhere the national, and this is my only beef with them, and my only parting of ways as a modern person today in the 21st century instead of the mid-19th. Where are we now? I would say we're 150 years later than this. Everywhere the national dogmatic, see, this was their guiding force. This is where I think that they had an agenda, which though they express it very nobly and eloquently, maybe led to really deleterious things. And I think it still is leading to deleterious things. Everywhere the national, dogmatically narrow aspects must give way to the living flow of purely human, truly religious thoughts. The same in Mendelssohn, the same here. All these highfalutin notions of religious thought is what we're supposed to represent, and throw out the other things which are mean, base, and so on. I think that somehow the lower things that they think are so mean and base are actually the things that inspire people's hearts. Now you can say as a Christian that the miracles inspire you and so on. I don't want to argue with you on that point. You'll have to decide what should be retained and what shouldn't. That's for you to decide. But I'm talking about Judaism now. And I don't mean to hurt any of your feelings when I say any of those things. But in Judaism, I think that the poetry of the Old Testament is what's inspiring. And some of the rubbish that they substituted in place of it falls flat on its face because it's not poetic. And it doesn't uplift. And it's just cheesy, second-rate thinking. And you're not going to inspire young people with that kind of cheesiness. What you're going to do is maybe, with the Old Testament at least, you can inspire young people with the beautifulness of the expression and the antiquity of it and the impressiveness of it, which is why I love to teach an Old Testament class in this university. Even though I don't, believe half of what they say in terms of what they're attesting to. But that's okay. And then when they get into the prophets in the Old Testament, to me it's a shame that the Jewish people don't even read their own prophets. That Christians read more of the prophets than Jews do. And I'll give the Orthodox credit. At least they read some of the prophets. I don't know how well they understand the prophets, but at least they read them. The Reformed Jews don't know anything about them. Anyway. For a noble, truly pious soul, the thought of the Father of all mankind is more stirring than the God of Israel. Well, I don't think that's true. I don't think the thought of the Father of all mankind inspires anybody. The God of Israel, at least, is an understandable, inspiring historical event that moves people with all of the past and the people who felt that way. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just saying what I think is, I praise their attempt to be high-minded and elegant, but I really part company with their conclusions, personally. And so therefore, the reason I put them down, if you like, a little bit, is that I don't think that their conclusions were just motivated by, an attempt to get along. And that isn't to me very noble. You can get along if you want, but it's not very noble. The image of God imprinted upon every human being is a covenant sign of divine love, has more poetry than the chosenness of Israel. No, I'm sorry. That's not going to be what young people anyway are going to respond to, and it's not going to move me when I'm on my deathbed, I don't think. So, you know, that's just me I'm talking about. So they think that this is self-evident, but I don't think it is self-evident. That doesn't mean the Orthodox approach is going to be the arbiter. I think we need really poetic, prophetical-minded people to express things in a poetic, prophetical-minded way if you're going to change anything. Otherwise, leave it the way it is. Because you're going to do more damage by your foolish changes than you are in letting it be. That doesn't mean you have to go around dressed like Hasidim or something, like if you're Amish or something. You don't have to go around in costumes from the 16th century. You don't have to meddle with the culture that you've inherited either, unless you've got something higher to replace it with, which these people obviously didn't. At least they couldn't express it in any high-minded way that would appeal to spiritually, how should I put it, inspiring, in a spiritually inspiring manner. Okay, and then that here, it's hard for me to be so tough on this. You read it yourself, you make your conclusion, don't listen to me. The high ideals and sentiments are brought together, which in the purifying struggle on the battlefield of science has proved themselves the ideals and sentiments of the genuine Jewish spirit. This is so highfalutin, it's really like, it's very noble, but meaningless. We call special attention to those prayers which contain thoughts of the holiness of God and man, the priestly vocation of Israel, the purified messianic ideas, the other. We want you to look at these things, in other words, and see how well we've done this. Well, I'm not sure they have. But in any case, let's go here to Abraham Geiger. And his introduction, which is, as you can imagine, is, as usual, more intellectual than some of these others. He's a smart guy, this Geiger. And I have to say, I read that essay of his, Was hat Muhammad aus den Juden genommen? What has Muhammad taken from the Jews? And I guess I did read it in English, because I don't think I would have been able to get through a real good understanding of it in German. So there must be a translation of it out there somewhere, because I read it in graduate school. Okay. What's his date on this one? It's got a date here. 1869, Frankfurt. Right after the American Civil War. Somewhere towards the end of his life. He had 3 or 4 more years to live. He's a man later in life. Are we okay here? You're following me, you guys? Okay. Here's his introduction to the prayer. The prayer we're comparing here with hardly needs to be commended and introduced to the public, for which it's meant. Liturgical, meaning service idea, has already for years occupied one of the foremost positions in the consideration